And what I want to do now is actually invite 4 Global Citizen Year alums with us. And I just thought it would be interesting to hear their perspectives. 3 are currently in college, 1 is recently out. And the prompt that I want to share, if you guys want to come up to the front here actually, is tell us about one skill that you brought to college that you felt was most important in setting you up for success, and what experience helped you develop that skill. And just introduce yourself and your connection to this part of the world.
What's that?
Height or seniority?
Height.
Are we blind? No. My name is Jake. I was in the 2012-2013 cohort. I was in Ecuador. I grew up in the pressure cooker. I'm from Palo Alto. So I kind of know what a lot of people here are feeling. One skill, what I was going to talk about was that I think the skill to adapt. It's probably been the most helpful for me throughout college. I transferred from Emory to Brown, and then I spent 2 summers in New York City and Cape Town. And I think one of the biggest skill sets that I took away from it was going to another country, being able to navigate another culture. But it was just really interesting hearing the conversation that was going on, because one of the things that occurred to me was probably the bigger skill is navigating college, in the sense that, I initially thought that a lot of the pressure was going to stop in college, and it doesn't. College is really hard. You go to take 4 classes, they're all taught by very, very intelligent professors. And at the same time, it's very easy to get distracted. So whether you're on your laptop in class or something like that. I study economics, which is not the most interesting major, but I really love it. And one of the reasons why is because whenever we study something like, for example, the solo growth model, that talks about how technology is important in economic growth, I can think about a memory that I had during my year in Ecuador. Having a conversation with my host mom about how having a washing machine changed her life. And that really gives it a whole new color to a lot of the classes that I have.
Thanks, Jake.
My name's Maddie, and I think I'll go the opposite way. I'll start with the story and skill that I have now. In high school, I seemed like I was totally ready for college. I had 5s on all my AP exams. I finished my IB diploma with a very high score, great SAT scores, great ACT scores, and I loved it all. I loved the learning, but it was very, very intense. It was very intense and not necessarily healthy. I anticipated going to college as most of the families and peers around me expected me to do, and it took the junior year of my high school in a conversation with my doctor where he said, you can either deal with your anorexia now, or we might not see you again in a year. And that's where a big rut happened in my career. I was no longer on this straight upward trend. There was a bump that I had not anticipated. And at that point I decided, maybe I should take a year. Maybe I'm not ready. And I ended up applying to Global Citizen Year. I went to Ecuador. It was absolutely incredible. The best part was that I had the still time, the time to think, and more time to think. And during that time, I also applied to Stanford, a school that I had never wanted to go to.
Go see my psychologist.
But that I never wanted to be in California, to be more specific. Nothing wrong with Stanford, just didn't want to be in California.
Okay, now you can solve it.
The story ends well.
Thankfully, I was accepted, and I ended up choosing Stanford because it was the closest school to home, and because I had great financial aid. And since then, I have absolutely loved my Stanford time. It's been the most incredible experience I could have. I don't think I ever imagined anything like this. And so thinking of the skill that I have now that I hope other seniors are bringing as they enter into the realm of college is an ability to find a stillness.
My name's Sam. I'm a junior at Stanford as well, just in the back area. I'm studying anthropology. I spent some time in Ecuador with Global Citizen here in 2013. Kind of like Maddie just mentioned, the skill that I want to talk about is stillness, quiet time, time for yourself. One of the things that I always heard my mom, I'm the baby of 4 kids, so I kind of saw all of my siblings go through everything in life and just sat back and watched a lot of it. One of the things that I heard my mom always say about college is that, and still, and I think she's right, is that this is a time that for many can be a very self-centered time. And it can be selfish in a bad way. I don't think selfish necessarily means bad. But it's very self-centered. It's a time where many people have more of a privilege than they have had growing up to look into themselves and look into the future and look into the past and kind of make sense of what they want to do with it. And something that I learned in Global Citizen here, not necessarily from one experience, but from months of walking to work every day, an hour by myself, or once a week taking the 2-hour bus into town to Spanish class, or the 2-hour bus back, was that I need a lot of time for myself, and I really benefited on Global Citizen year with that time. And I struggled a lot my first year at Stanford, and I'm still managing, trying to do all of these crazy things that we're able to do, and to make sense of it and to enjoy it. So I guess my skill is that I have learned to be very judicious and to listen to myself when I know that I need the time to step back from studying, or to step back from time with a lot of people, or to step back from whatever's going on and to kind of recenter myself. And usually that is bringing myself back to the birds chirping on my way to work, or sitting on the bus and watching the rain pour down outside. Girls in the rainforest, it rained all the time. It's like California this week.
Hey y'all, I'm Ananda. I was part of the founding fellows, so I was the guinea pig. There were 11 of us total, and 6 in my country, Senegal. I graduated, almost 2 years ago now, and I now live in the Bay. I work at a 3D printing company in Redwood City, and I live in San Francisco. So I ended up at Global Citizen year, and when I was younger, I grew up in a really low-income family, and for me, school was always it. School was how you get out. So I was thinking about going to college, and I'd worked my whole life since I was 15, and thinking about it, I was finally getting to that point, and I was like, oh my god, I'm almost there. This is going to be the best thing in the whole world. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, wait, I have no idea why I'm going to college. And it was this great dilemma of, I was about to reach what I've been working for my whole life, and this epitome of making it, but there was no specific reason of what I was going to do. So in my head, I was just going to go to college, and I was going to waste the most precious thing that I've been working my whole life for. So I got to Senegal, and the thing about Global Citizen year for me was you had a chance to actually learn how to ask questions. So the thing is, I was in a place where there's maybe 1,000 people, and speaking 6 different languages, none of which I spoke. So when you're there, you're basically a baby. You're sitting there and you just listen. You learn how to watch people, how to understand what people are doing without even understanding what they're saying. And then you learn how to ask questions so that you begin to understand the little things at first and then the big things. And then you get to sit with the questions. And that for me is the kicker. So a lot of people, you learn how to ask the questions, so then you say, okay, I'm not going to spend the time to ask or to wonder why, or really get to figure out the answer at the end of the day. So for me, I work in a startup. It's about the most ambiguous thing you can do. I work between 3 different organizations, between product development, mechanical and software engineers, and a bunch of material scientists. So my world is ambiguity, and I sit and I ask questions, and and I learned how to figure out what are the real deep answers, and then figuring out how to communicate them. This time in English, but you know, every now and then there's some French. So that for me was global citizen year, is asking the questions and then learning to sit with them until you find the answer.
Thank you all. I don't know if that resonates for others, but I certainly wish that I had arrived in college with an ability to know myself, to be judicious, to know when I needed time for stillness, to listen and ask the right questions, and to have the adaptability to really just be deliberate with my education. And I think you've each done an extraordinary job of making college count and doing it in a way that feeds your soul and answers your questions. So thank you. What we're going to do now is break into smaller groups. I don't know how we're doing